All right, my darling parents, I have one last video for you in this series entitled Instant Toddler Obedience. And we've been talking about creating the behavior we desire simply by our words, by speaking to our children what we desire. And I know you're probably wondering, this sounds too good to be true. Are words really that powerful? And if you read the Bible, of course, there's a lot of examples in there of words. It talks a lot about words and the power of the tongue. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. God created the world with words. But I want to share with you a scientific experiment. This is just one, but there are many studies into the power of the spoken human word. And in this experiment, there was a man named Dr. Emoto. He was a Japanese scientist, and he wanted to study the effect of words on water. And I call this message P.O.W, and that doesn't stand for prisoner of war. This is the power of words. And in this study, Dr. Emoto, he took 2 glasses of water, and to 1 glass of water, he spoke nice things, good things, positive things. To the other one, he spoke negative things, ugly things, mean things. He said things like, I hate you, you're terrible, you're horrible, you're useless, just all these negative things. And to the other one, he spoke positive things. You're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're capable, you're amazing, whatever. But he just spoke different words to them. And I don't remember how long this went on. But then he took the water and he froze the water because that stabilizes the water. And then they looked at the crystals that were formed in these 2 different glasses of water when they were frozen. And the crystals in the positive, the water that was spoken positive words to, were these beautiful formations of crystals, all different types of beautiful crystals. What you think of when you think of just, beautiful artistic snowflakes. But as you can imagine, the one that was spoken the ugly words to, the crystals that were formed were dark, they were ugly, they were misshapen, there was nothing beautiful about them. Even though they were water crystals, they were ugly. He did the same thing with 2 cups of cooked rice. And he even just taped written words to these jars of cooked rice. He didn't even speak to them. He just wrote the words and stuck them on there. And it was ridiculous. You'd think that over time cooked rice would get moldy and gross. Well, I left him, I think, for a week. And maybe he spoke to them as well. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the exact details of the experiment. But he just covered them in these jars and set them on a counter. And spoke to them and wrote words and stuck them on the jars. And the same thing, the rice that was spoken positive words to, it was still white and nice and pretty. But the one that was spoken ugly words to was dark. I mean, like black. It had turned like dark brown black. The rice had. They were complete opposites. You can look this up online. It's all over YouTube and Google. Dr. Masaru Emoto, Emoto's water experiment. In fact, if you just type in Google words and water experiment, it'll bring up a lot of posts about this experiment, and you can see it for yourself. But that is how powerful human words are. And I say human words. Humans are the only ones that speak words. Animals communicate in other ways. But human communication is very powerful. So if you think about the water one, our bodies are 98% water, 75% water, I think 75% water. And so your words have a profound effect on your child. Remember, we talked about the frequency and the vibrations of your words. So that inner man, all that water that saturates every cell of his body is receiving the frequency of your words, and it's resonating in his body. And that's his inner man, actually, is all that frequency that has been deposited in him. And it's creating his subconscious, his inner self-image, how he views himself. So yes, words are very powerful, and they do have the ability to create. And I'm telling you, when you start doing this, you'll see in your kids how easy it is, because they're kind of a blank slate, and we've been all polluted with all sorts of experiences and things throughout life. But a little child, he's pure and innocent. He doesn't know anything. So, he just has that ability just to really take in anything you say. I'm going to give you one more example here. It might help you about the power of words. I was working with a gentleman, and he was a pastor, and he had an amazing church with signs and wonders in his church, but he could not get his almost 3-year-old daughter to do what he said. And so I spoke with him and did a little coaching session with him. And I told him, and the specific situation was, she would always be rough with the cat. They had a cat, and she had never learned to be gentle with the cat, and she would always squeeze him. You know how kids, they just want to love them to death because they're so cute and furry. And they weren't able to stop this behavior. They tried everything, time out, punishment, whatever. And he said for 2 years, they've been trying to teach her to be gentle with the cat. And to this day, when I had spoken to him, at that point, they'd had no success. And so they always had to kind of monitor where she was and where the cat was. And it was a lot of work. And so I told him, I said, well, and he hadn't really been through any of my training. We just had a little session together. I said, why don't you try telling her that you like how she's gentle with the cat? And I wasn't sure how this would work since he hadn't done any other work with me. And believe it or not, he came back the very next day. And he said, you won't believe this. But he said, I came in the room, and there she was strangling the cat, which is how he described it. And I said to her, I like how you're gentle with the cat. And he said, yeah, I like how you pet him gently. Like remember I said it feels very awkward because you're seeing one thing and you're saying another, just like with my son. He looked like he was being disobedient, and I told him he was obedient. He looked like he wasn't eating well, but I told him he was a good eater. Well, this girl, this is a very simple thing. She, petting the cat's not life-changing, but for him it was, because he learned the power of words. And so when he said these things to her, he said it felt so awkward. And that's the way it feels, because you are speaking something that you don't see yet. But that's the power of faith, of speaking those things that are not as though they are. That's what brings them into reality. And so he turned around and walked out of the room, and he came back a few minutes later, and he said she was sitting there petting the cat. For 2 years, they've been describing and defining what they didn't want. Stop that. Don't. You're hurting the cat. He's going to hurt you. Blah, blah, blah. All he had to do is say what he wanted. I like how you're gentle with the cat. And that's why I say, just, you can do this. It doesn't have to be the whole big obedient umbrella. Start with little things like that. Start building your faith. And then when you have those moments where you're butting heads, then you'll have the confidence to say, you know what? You're so obedient. I love how you always do what I say. And so I think that example kind of simplifies this whole process for you, and you realize it actually is very simple. I've spent a lot of time explaining a very simple process because I want you to understand why it works and why it's so powerful, and how God's so rigged it in our favor. Look how hard that dad had worked for 2 years trying to stop that behavior with no success. One simple, just direct command, I like how you're gentle with the cat, changed everything. So he spoke it as if it already was. And that's the key. You don't say, oh, one day you'll be, or I know that you can. Some parents say that. I know that you can be. No, I love how you're neat, how you keep your room neat when your teenager's room is a mess. So do it now, because in those early years is the easiest. They respond so instantly because they don't have all these confused messages that they've acquired over the years and years like we have. And so it's much easier for them to believe what you say and not to. So if you wait till their cognitive ability develops, then you have to deal with that, because then they're judging what you say. Like the 7-year-old, she goes, "Oh, no, I'm not." When her mom said, "You're so obedient." "No, I'm not." Because she'd had all those years of experience of her mom telling her she wasn't, I'm sure, because this was a very extreme situation with the mom I told you about, who just didn't really understand or take the whole course. She just heard me say that and said, "Oh, I'm going to try it." She didn't understand anything about the foundation of it, and why it works, the scriptural or even the scientific basis for this process. And so start when they're young, because it's easier. You don't have all the years of junk to sort through. You can still do it when they're older, but that's a teaching for parents of older children for later. But in these first 3 years, it's so simple. Just tell your child you like how he's gentle with the cat, and he will be. Tell him how you like how he keeps his toys neat and organized, how he shares with his sister. "I love how you share your toys. I love how you eat your vegetables. Oh, you're so helpful and kind." You can tell him anything, he's going to believe it, and he's going to be it. And as you begin speaking these positive, it's going to change the way you see your child, and it's going to change what you're emitting. Instead of that, anxiety that you have with your toddler, you're going to begin realizing that this is fun. It's like a game. It's like I can create the child of my dreams, and you literally can. So I'm going to leave you with that and encourage you to go out and start creating the child of your dreams, and start telling your child who he's created to be, who he is. And it's just going to be, it's a snowball effect. You just have so much fun with it that your relationship between you and your child is going to just be so fulfilling, and you're gonna start experiencing the family that you always dreamed of having. When we have a child, we have this fairy tale idea of what parenting and what our family is going to be like, and that's the way it's supposed to be, because we can't dream bigger than God can do. No, he's able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all that we can imagine. And so if you imagine this happy, peaceful, loving home, then it's possible. And so our imagination is not greater than what God has designed for us. So you guys take care. God bless. Thank you for going all the way through this series with me, and I hope it's been a blessing to you. If it has, please share this with your friends and family. God bless and take care.